We are conditioned to believe that the most formidable person in the room is the one with the highest IQ, the lightning-fast thinker who solves the problem before anyone else even understands it. Because of this, countless people quietly carry a sense of intellectual inferiority, assuming they can never compete with naturally gifted minds. But raw intelligence has never guaranteed clarity, self-control, or genuine influence. Some of the smartest individuals collapse the moment life becomes uncomfortable because their emotions hijack their intellect. Meanwhile, calmer minds quietly shape situations without ever needing to prove a thing. Stoicism understood this centuries ago. A disturbed mind is a predictable mind, and predictable people are easy to manipulate. When you cannot govern your emotions govern you. Real psychological strength is not built by the velocity of your thoughts, but by stillness under pressure, clarity amid confusion, and the rare ability to stay steady while everyone else reacts impulsively. Most people walk into interactions carrying an invisible weight. Before a single word is spoken, their minds are already preparing for battle, rehearsing comebacks, defending opinions, and strategizing how to appear intelligent and unchallengeable. When someone across the room speaks with absolute confidence, the body reacts as if it were an immediate threat. Breathing tightens, thoughts race, and attention narrows. In that instant, genuine listening dies. The individual is no longer trying to understand. They are desperately defending a fragile self-image they fear might shatter under scrutiny. This is why daily interactions feel so utterly exhausting. The ego quietly transforms a simple conversation into a competition, creating intense friction long before any real conflict begins. Suffering begins in our interpretations, not in reality itself. We interpret confidence as superiority, disagreement as a personal attack, and another person's intelligence as a direct threat. Once this emotional pressure takes over, true clarity vanishes. People interrupt too quickly, over-explain their actions, and react frantically to imagined judgments rather than observing what is actually happening right in front of them. A disciplined mind approaches human interaction with an entirely different objective. Instead of entering a room trying to prove its intelligence, it enters simply trying to see reality clearly. That single mental shift changes everything. The desperate urge to impress fades away, and your observation becomes razor-sharp. You begin to notice the subtle details that reactive minds completely miss. The telling pauses between words, micro shifts in vocal tone, a layer of forced confidence masking deep-seated insecurity, slight irritation neatly concealed beneath polite language. Most people are so preoccupied with what they want to say next that they are entirely blind to these cues. Calm attention uncovers them naturally. Once your capacity to observe becomes stronger than your urge to react, conversations stop feeling like battles to be won. They become windows into the psychological state of another human being. Consider two people receiving the exact same piece of harsh criticism. The first person reacts instantly. Their voice turns defensive, and they launch into a rapid explanation to claw back control. Even if their words make sense, the underlying emotional urgency betrays their vulnerability. The second person remains entirely composed. They listen fully, their breathing stays steady, and their expression barely changes. They aren't emotionally frozen. They are simply refusing to let external criticism dictate their internal state. This stillness instantly creates uncertainty in the challenger. Aggressive personalities expect emotional resistance because it confirms their impact. When their provocation fails to trigger a reaction, the dynamic flips. The aggressor begins overexposing themselves, while the composed observer continues to see through them with perfect clarity. Modern culture subtly dictates that sounding complicated makes you look capable. As a result, conversations become bloated with endless explanations, technical jargon, and exhausting performances designed to impress rather than communicate. But confused thinking creates confused language. A person who truly understands a concept rarely feels the need to hide behind unnecessary complexity. Their words are simple because their minds are clear. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. Plato. True certainty does not need to dominate attention aggressively. It stands firmly on its own. When your language stops sounding rushed or emotionally loaded, the atmosphere around you changes. People stop focusing on your performance and begin focusing on your meaning. They pause before responding because they sense your thoughts are deliberate, not impulsive. This restraint extends into one of the most powerful tools of human interaction: silence. Most people are deeply uncomfortable with stillness. The moment a pause appears in conversation, they panic and rush to fill it with noise, overcommitting to opinions or revealing thoughts they should have kept private. In their desperate race to regain emotional comfort, they surrender control of the dynamic. A disciplined mind uses silence to shift the emotional rhythm. Silence acts as a psychological mirror, reflecting the instability of others back onto themselves. The longer a calm pause remains steady, the more a reactive person feels compelled to resolve it. They will explain further, clarify unnecessarily, and accidentally expose the very motivations they meant to hide. Meanwhile, the composed person stays still, gathering insight without forcing the moment. Every destructive emotion, anger, fear, pride, excitement, creates its own momentum. It pushes the body toward immediate reaction because reacting provides brief emotional relief. Yet, emotional relief and wisdom are rarely the same thing. The worst decisions in life are almost always made because acting quickly feels satisfying in the moment. Sending the angry text, cutting off a relationship, accepting a poor offer without reflection, or defending the ego over something trivial all provide instant gratification. But when the cloud clears and reality sets in, the true cost becomes visible. A single reckless moment can create years of unintended consequences. This is why a simple pause creates an immense psychological advantage. Externally, it may only last a few seconds. Internally, it alters the trajectory of your life. Instead of asking how to satisfy a fleeting feeling right now, the disciplined mind asks where a choice will lead in the future. This discipline eventually evolves from a conversational tactic into your fundamental identity. You stop entering rooms searching for validation. You enter with clean curiosity. Insecurity blinds the mind, but curiosity opens it. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously observed, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When you break the cycle of automatic behavior, situations that once felt overwhelming entirely lose their grip. You no longer treat a passing feeling as an absolute command that must be obeyed. Space opens up between stimulus and response, and within that quiet space, true inner freedom is born. The modern world has turned constant reaction into a virtue. Everywhere you look, you are pressured to respond instantly to messages, opinions, criticisms, and any flash of internal discomfort. In this hyper-connected noise, silence is routinely mistaken for weakness, uncertainty, or a lack of confidence. Yet, the strongest minds throughout history understood a counterintuitive truth. Clarity vanishes the moment emotion rushes to escape discomfort. If you cannot tolerate a pause, you cannot tolerate deep reflection. Reflection demands stillness, and stillness forces the mind to look into a mirror without the shield of digital distraction. Because people fear that mirror, most modern conversations remain remarkably shallow. People don't listen to understand. They listen to prepare their next monologue. Choosing restraint over immediate reaction is the ultimate demonstration of self-trust. Reactive individuals speak quickly because they are terrified of losing control over how they are perceived. They crave immediate validation and instant certainty. A calm individual carries no such urgency. They possess the internal stability to let an uncertain moment hang in the air without panicking. Over time, people will forget the exact words you spoke, but they will never forget the grounding weight of your presence. When your mind becomes still, you notice a massive shift. You stop leaking premium energy into cheap provocations. Most people spend their days bleeding mental energy. They react to every passing disruption as if it holds an official warrant for their attention. A backhanded comment from a coworker ruins their focus for hours. An anonymous opinion online dictates their mood for an entire evening. A minor, passing conflict becomes a toxic mental loop replaying on a constant cycle. This isn't because life itself is unbearable. It is because their focus is scattered across 50 meaningless micro-battles at once. A disciplined mind filters these inputs by asking one simple, quiet question before investing an ounce of emotion. Does this actually deserve my currency? Most of the time, the answer is an absolute no. Many arguments lead nowhere. Many provocations exist solely to steal your focus or validate someone else's insecurity. Recognizing this doesn't mean you are practicing passive avoidance. It means you are practicing intelligent discipline. Avoidance runs away because it fears conflict. Discipline refuses to engage because it values its resources. When you react automatically, you become entirely predictable. And predictable people are exceptionally easy to manipulate. Most people are trapped in emotional loops they can't see. The scenery changes, the people change, but the internal script remains identical. An ego threat triggers instant defensiveness. An emotional withdrawal triggers immediate anxiety. A challenge to authority triggers automatic rage. If a manipulative person, a toxic boss, or a broken system figures out which emotional buttons control you, they own your behavior. They apply pressure to the familiar spot, and you deliver the expected reaction right on cue. Stoic discipline systematically breaks this cycle. It doesn't turn you into an unfeeling block of stone. It simply builds a firewall of awareness between the stimulus and your response. When anger or frustration arrives, you acknowledge it, but you don't treat it as an executive order that must be obeyed. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Seneca. True poverty of mind is the constant craving for external alignment, demanding that the world behave perfectly so you can feel okay inside. True freedom is not the license to act on every passing impulse. It is the mastery over impulse itself. A person chained to their moods is never truly free. When your behavior shifts from automatic to conscious, you become an enigma to those who rely on emotional leverage. Your non-reactivity completely rewires the dynamic of an interaction. They expect guilt, but encounter steady boundaries. They expect a defensive argument, but receive calm observation. They expect emotional chaos, but meet patient silence. This creates immense psychological friction for the provocateur. Reactive people rely on your counter-reaction to steady their own footing. When you refuse to play your part in their drama, the mirror flips. They are forced to confront their own instability, often over-explaining and exposing their true motives while you simply watch. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Epictetus. This internal boundary does not strip the color out of your life. You still care, and you still feel deeply. However, you become highly intentional about where your emotional currency is spent. You save your full attention for things that genuinely matter: deep relationships, meaningful endeavors, and real challenges that forge character. As the noise of external validation fades, an unshakable clarity takes its place. You begin to spot opportunities that reactive minds completely miss because their focus is blurred by panic. You bypass traps that emotional people sprint directly into. You move through chaotic environments with a quiet, undeniable authority, simply because you are no longer competing for the room's approval. The moment you stop reacting unconsciously, the world loses its grip on your destiny. Noise is replaced by strategy. Impulse is replaced by patience. And true strength finally emerges, not from dominating others, but from completely conquering yourself. If this path toward inner clarity and self-mastery resonates with you, select one of the videos on your screen right now to keep training your mind to remain steady in a world that profits from your distraction.